Let's go Broncos! The atmosphere around the Denver Broncos is absolutely electric right now, and I've got some major updates to break down with you. There's a real sense that something special is being built behind the scenes, and more importantly, it's finally being recognized across the league. But before we dive deeper into everything that's unfolding, make sure you've already hit that like button if you've been a Denver Broncos fan for over 20 years. It's always great to see fans from every generation showing up strong. And if you can, drop this in the comments. Go Broncos! My heart bleeds orange and blue. Now let's get straight into it, because what we're hearing right now should have every Broncos fan fired up. According to a respected league-wide evaluation, the Denver Broncos currently have the biggest Super Bowl window in the entire NFL. Not slightly open, not a crack, not a maybe if things go right situation. We're talking fully open, all gas, no brakes. That's not hype. That's coming from outside analysts who are looking at how this roster has been built from top to bottom. And when you really take a step back and analyze what this team accomplished last season, it becomes even more impressive. This was a 14-win team that dealt with serious adversity. Key players missed time, including multiple wide receivers late in the playoffs, the absence of J.K. Dobbins, injuries to Bo Nix, Pat Certain missing games, Marvin Mims being sidelined mid-season, and Dre Greenlaw missing a significant stretch. Despite all of that, this team still found ways to win and compete at a high level. That's exactly why there's so much confidence in the sustainability of this roster. This isn't a one-year flash. The structure of this team points to long-term success. The way Sean Payton and George Payton have handled contracts, identifying elite talent early and locking them in before their market value explodes, is now being praised across the league. We're talking about players like Nick Benito, Zach Allen, Pat Certain, and Quinn Meinerz, guys performing at elite levels while still being on team-friendly deals. And here's where it gets even more exciting. The projection isn't just that the Broncos are contenders now. Analysts are saying this Super Bowl window could realistically stay open for 4 or more years. And if certain strategic moves happen, like extending Bo Nix in a way that maximizes roster flexibility, that window could stretch to 6 or even 7 years. That's dynasty-level potential if everything aligns. Now let's talk about Bo Nix, because everything revolves around him. What stands out the most isn't just production, it's when he produces. On third downs and in the red zone, where games are decided, Bo Nix elevates his play. He's been one of the most efficient quarterbacks in high-pressure situations, even outperforming players with much larger contracts and reputations. That's not just promising, it's a clear indicator that the Broncos have their franchise leader under center. And while other teams in the AFC are still trying to figure things out, the Broncos are ahead of the curve. There are questions surrounding teams like the Houston Texans with their offensive line issues. And even comparisons to quarterbacks like Drake May are starting to tilt in favor of Bo Nix based on performance and consistency. Another major point that deserves attention is how smart this front office has been with roster construction. The addition of Jalen Waddle completely changed the offensive outlook. Instead of relying on one massively expensive receiver, the Broncos now have a balanced and dangerous duo with Courtland Sutton and Waddle, both contributing without crippling the salary cap. That's how sustainable contenders are built. And here's where things get really interesting. There are strong indications that another move could be coming before the NFL draft. The Broncos still have around $20 million in cap space, and there's growing chatter that something is brewing behind the scenes. Several names have been mentioned in potential trade discussions, including Jarrett Stidham, Riley Moss, Jonah Ellis, Ben Powers, Marvin Mims, and Troy Franklin. But when you analyze the situation carefully, moving most of these players doesn't make much sense unless the return is extremely high. Depth has been one of the biggest strengths of this team, and that's exactly what you need when making a deep playoff run. The one name that stands out as a realistic trade candidate is Jarrett Stidham, not because of a lack of value, but because of asset management. If the Broncos can flip him for a second or third round pick, it might be a move worth considering, especially with the understanding that if Bo Nix goes down, no backup is realistically saving the season anyway. And that brings us to the core of everything. This team is built to win now, but also to keep winning for years. The window is open, the roster is deep, the quarterback is proving himself, and the front office is making calculated, forward-thinking decisions. And this is where things start to get even more intense behind the scenes, because if you really connect all the dots, you can feel that the Denver Broncos are not done yet. The front office isn't acting like a team that's satisfied with just being good. They're acting like a team that knows the window is wide open and is willing to push even harder to maximize it. When you look at the way this roster has been constructed, one thing becomes very clear. Depth is not a luxury for this team, it's a strategy. That's why names like Jonah Ellis, Riley Moss, Marvin Mims, and Troy Franklin are being protected internally like premium assets. Moving any of those guys would create holes that could come back to hurt this team in January, and that's something Sean Payton and George Payton are clearly trying to avoid. Take the defensive side, for example. The edge rotation is stacked, and while some might argue there's redundancy, the reality is completely different. Having multiple players ready to rotate keeps everyone fresh deep into the season. And when playoff football arrives, that freshness becomes a weapon. Letting go of someone like Jonah Ellis would only make sense if the return was overwhelming, and right now, there's no indication that kind of offer is on the table. The same logic applies to the secondary. Riley Moss has already proven he can perform, and with the depth already in place, the Broncos are in a position where injuries won't derail the entire unit. That kind of insurance is priceless in a league where one bad stretch can end a season. Now shifting to the offensive side, the conversation gets even more fascinating. Marvin Mims is seen internally as a player whose ceiling hasn't even been reached yet. There's a strong belief that his best football is still ahead of him, which makes the idea of trading him extremely risky unless the compensation is massive. The same goes for Troy Franklin, especially considering his connection with Bo Nix. Chemistry like that isn't something you casually give away. So everything keeps circling back to one central idea. If a move is coming, it has to be smart, calculated, and aligned with the long-term vision. This is not about making noise, it's about making the right move. And that's why the Jarrett Stidham situation continues to stand out. It's not about his ability or his presence in the locker room, because those are valuable. But when you weigh that against the possibility of gaining a second or third round pick, especially for a team that values draft capital as much as the Broncos do, the conversation changes. This front office loves having as many opportunities as possible in the draft, and flipping a backup quarterback into a valuable pick could be exactly the kind of move that keeps this roster strong year after year. At the same time, there's a deeper layer to all of this. The Broncos aren't just thinking about this season, they're thinking about sustaining success. That's why every decision feels like it's part of a bigger plan. The combination of smart contracts, emerging stars, and strategic flexibility is putting this team in a position where they don't have to gamble. They can choose their moments carefully. And let's not ignore the psychological factor here. When a team knows it has the biggest Super Bowl window in the league, that confidence changes everything. It impacts how players prepare, how coaches design game plans, and how the entire organization operates. This isn't a team hoping to compete. This is a team expecting to win. But with that expectation comes pressure. Because now, every move matters even more. Every decision could be the one that either pushes this team over the top, or holds them back just enough to fall short. And that's exactly why this next move, whatever it is, feels so important. And the more you think about it, the more it feels like the Broncos are sitting in one of the most controlled, calculated positions in the entire league right now. There's no desperation here. No panic moves. No reckless decisions. Everything that's being discussed, everything that's potentially brewing, comes from a place of strength. Because let's be real, this isn't a roster full of question marks anymore. This is a roster that already proved it can win at a high level, even when things weren't perfect. 14 wins with injuries, missed opportunities, and adversity along the way is not something you just overlook. It's a signal, a very loud one. And what makes this even more dangerous for the rest of the league is that the Broncos still haven't peaked. Bo Nix is still developing. The offensive chemistry is still evolving. The defense, already one of the strongest units, still has room to grow with the depth and rotation they've built. That's the part that should really stand out to every fan right now. This team isn't maxed out yet. So when you hear that there might be one more move coming, it doesn't feel like a necessity. It feels like an opportunity. An opportunity to take something already strong and make it even harder to beat. And internally, the mindset seems crystal clear. Protect what worked,